Our next specialist is Madam Maia Guiskin, an anthropologist from the University of Chile and a founding member of the Consenso for Peace, Palestine-Israel in Santiago. She worked as a researcher in the National Fund for Science and Technology Development, FUNCIT, and she worked on a project called, quote, Conflict and Dialogue in Argentina and Chile, the Cases of Judaism, Islam, and Hinduism in the period of 2001 to 2011, end quote. She has also done research on the Latin American Jewish communities and their relationship with Israel, with support from the Center for Judaic Studies in the University of Chile. We very much appreciate her participation in this meeting. You have the floor, ma'am. Thank you. Good morning, one and all. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the organizers for moving forward with this meeting and organizing it. I have had mostly an experience of learning in this meeting, and I very much appreciate this opportunity. As I was introduced, I'm Madam Maia Guiskin. I'm an anthropologist, along with Rafael, who just presented his work. We come in representation of the Chilean Consensus for Palestine-Israeli Peace in Santiago. Yesterday, and just now with Lionel's presentation, we had an opportunity to listen on a number of occasions to ideas about consensus, what moves it, and how to contribute to bringing about lasting peace in the Middle East. I also had the pleasure of listening to Professor Kaufman, who very clearly presented the substance and basics of this initiative. And we've been talking with our colleagues from Uruguay, Argentina, who have a great deal more experience than we do on this path. Our group has only existed for a year, so we have not taken a great deal of specific action as of yet. But we would like to put a few ideas on the table above and beyond the principles that are behind this initiative. I think we heard about that yesterday and today, so I don't want to repeat what's already been said. So rather than reading the presentation that we had prepared, I'd just like to maybe tell you a little bit about the situation in Chile and how an initiative like this in context makes sense and how it might have repercussions in the context in which we come from. I don't know if you know, but in Chile we have the largest Palestinian diaspora outside the Arab world. Some 300 to 500,000 Palestinians, unlike other countries in Latin America where you have Arab descendants from other places, Jordan, Syria, etc. In Chile, the majority of the Palestinian community, of the Arab community, is Palestinian from Benjala and Bethlehem. Above and beyond the fact that the Palestinian community is quite large in Chile, it's also a community with a great deal of influence in the country in different arenas. It's a very significant economic group in the area of communications and media, in the cultural arena, even in sports. It also is very well represented politically in parliament. I don't know if you know this, but it's been a few weeks now, and we just had a changeover, and President Bachelet is now beginning her second term. I don't know what the new parliament's composition will be, but I know under President Piñera, 8.5% of senators and deputies were of Palestinian origin, 4 senators and 9 deputies. So there's a strong presence at the political level of the Palestinian community. It's also interesting because they represent both left and right wing parties. So they work for solidarity, Palestinian solidarity, but above and beyond their different political perspectives, be they right-wing or left-wing or center. The Jewish community in Chile is much smaller, some 15 to 20,000 people, but it also has strong influence socially and politically. I don't have the exact figures, but I know that in the previous government of President Bachelet, it was the government with the largest Jewish presence after Israel. A number of well-known political figures are Jewish origin, and this was also true under President Piñera, people from the Jewish community. So again, it's, if you look at it in proportion to the number of people in the community, they're actually more represented. And both the Arab and the Jewish communities in Chile enjoy good level social status and are successful in business and economically speaking. Yesterday, in some of the presentations, and also today, I heard a number of people say that the Arab and Jewish communities in Latin America are an example of harmonious living together and can be a model for other countries. I'm not sure I see that as being the situation in Chile today. Rather, it might be true that the communities have a great deal in common and that we have a joint history. In other words, we arrived at the beginning of the 20th century, arrived in basically the same conditions and devoted their energies to commerce and business and worked together. And in the first decades of the 20th century, that's when we had the creation of the State of Israel at that time, and the Nakba took place, and many events until now have taken place in the conflict. But my vision is that the two communities have become increasingly distant from each other since their first arrival because of the long-distance nationalism, and also because of increasing radicalism in the two communities, both in the Jewish and the Arabic community. I know more about the Jewish community because I come from there, but the official stance taken by the community institutions is very closed and intransigent. And they openly say it. Unconditional defense of the government of Israel, no matter what happens. That's the community official stance. So people who are of Jewish origin and who don't agree with that rhetoric end up being excluded from the community and end up being marginalized. It happened to me. We have a sort of an embarrassment in being identified. We want peace and a two-state solution, and we keep having to explain ourselves, because if you're Jewish and you believe that, then they start criticizing you for that. So it's difficult to get a group like ours off the ground based on consensus. Lana was also saying this earlier, and I agree. Dialogue and living together in harmony in the community is not enough. It's not everything. You need to act together. But my personal point of view would be that in the context which I experience in Chile, that it does carry some weight to be working together. In the media it carries weight, politically it carries weight, and there's an impact on the rest of Chilean society. The Palestinian cause in Chilean society is very much a cross-cutting issue, in large part because of the very large presence of Palestinians in Chile, but also you hear people talking about it in the university, and there's a commitment to the cause. But then there's also a deep-seated ignorance about it. Ignorance, I don't know if this is the right way to say it. It's almost in fashion now to be in the left, so all the universities agree. They talk, but they don't really do much, and they don't go much further than that. They really don't understand the whole situation. So in this context, to see a strong group who are of both Palestinian and Jewish in origin, who are trying to work together towards a common goal, has an important amount of strength and power, and it shouldn't be underestimated. And as I was saying earlier, our group is young. It's only a year old. And Rafael and I are the youngest members of the group. There are other people who, ranging in age up to the age of 60, a very diverse group, both in terms of family backgrounds, but also professionally. There's journalists, politicians, lawyers, all sorts of people are involved in this group. I should also say that what we're doing at this point in time, more than taking specific action, which will be the next step, we're more working on consolidation of our group. After a year of monthly meetings with the group, we decided at our most recent meeting that we've reached a point where we might be able to address issues up until now. We've only been dealing with issues of trust amongst ourselves, prejudice, state clothing laws, also our disagreements. To be clear about that, where those areas where we don't find common ground. And this is very important if you want to do real work above all of good intentions. It's a slow process, but I think it's good that it be a slow process. So we're working based on what happened in the past. There have been entities in Chile where the Arab and Jewish communities tried to come together, but none of them yielded any results. Or they took one action and then nothing happened, or they ended up in confrontation. So we're trying to use that experience and not repeat the mistakes of the past. Trying to make sure that this group has a real impact in other areas, as Lionel was speaking so eloquently about earlier. So we have a nucleus first of mutual trust. So it's a real thing. And quite sincerely, above and beyond a declaration of good intentions or exchange of experiences, which is personal and is a truth indeed, but this kind of initiative can create a real impact in the media, in setting up an agenda, and as we said earlier, we can also have an impact on the foreign ministry and on the parliament to put items on their agendas and bring pressure to bear on them. It's not just about getting together to eat. I criticize that too, which does have, I have to admit, it does have some meaning. You have to build trust before you go out and start taking action and trying to have an impact. So that basically sums up what I wanted to tell you. I think I've told you enough about our initiative. Thank you very much.